Hi, thank you for joining me. This video is called Are Passover and Easter the Same? Are Passover and Easter the Same? And I'll begin by saying no. No, I don't think Passover and Easter are the same, even though they do have some similarities. The first difference I want to point out is the name. The name Passover comes from the Hebrew word Pesach, which actually means Passover. And this name was given to this festival because originally that's what happened. They slew the lamb and they placed the blood on the doorpost so that when the death angel came through the night, he would not kill the Israelites or he would not kill the people who put the blood on the doorpost. That's where we get the name Pesach or Passover because the angel passed over or skipped over the homes that had the blood on the doorpost. Now, Easter, where did that name come from? Well, we don't really know. Some people believe that it might have come from the term spring. Some people believe that it came from the goddess Esther. But whatever it is, I'm not sure that it should have a connection to the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ. I'm not sure that it's tied together. So I'd rather stick with the name Pesach, which distinguishes exactly what we're celebrating. The second difference that I want to talk about is the date. Pesach was established by God, and He said you are to celebrate this holiday or this festival on the 14th day of the year. So, according to the biblical year, Pesach would happen on the 14th day, and then from the 15th through the 21st is what's called the week of unleavened bread. Now, Easter, the date that Easter is celebrated is the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox. Now, what all that really means, I'm not sure. But in deciding when Easter was going to be celebrated, one of the stipulations was that it would definitely not be celebrated when Passover was celebrated. Those at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, that's 325 years or so, or about 300 years after Christ was here on the earth, they decided that they were going to establish Easter and make sure that it was distinct from Passover. Now, why would you want to do something like that? Because some of the things that they celebrate in Easter are the same things that actually happened for Passover. So why wouldn't you want to celebrate it exactly when it happened instead of some contrived date that you came up with? Now, why would they want to establish a holiday to compete with a holiday that God had already established? I think that's pretty presumptuous of people to do such things, but I also believe that it is a tactic of the enemy to draw our attention away from the things that God has told us to do as opposed to being improvising or compromising the things that God told us to do. I mean, it's like when God told King Saul to go and slay everything in the city. And he didn't he didn't kill everything. He didn't destroy everything. He saved some of the things that he thought were best. But God wasn't pleased. And so we can't take something that God has established and think we're going to fix it and make it more convenient for us or improve it by doing it our way. We don't have the authority to do that. And so so having this holiday so close to Passover just takes away our attention from God, from what God really wanted us to celebrate in the celebration of Passover. Now, during the Passover season, we clean out all the leaven out of our homes. Now, and even more important than cleaning them out of our homes, we are to clean the leaven out of our hearts. Now, the Lord told the disciples, He said, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. And that means beware of the teaching of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And it is unfortunate that Easter incorporates the teachings and doctrines that are false, or we could say the doctrines of Pharisees and Sadducees. And I don't know if they were exactly Pharisees or Sadducees, but the people at the Council of Nicaea, but it was false doctrine. And that's something that Yeshua warned us to beware of. And he said that, certain people, they're looking for a sign. He said, but I'm going to give you this sign, that the Christ is going to be in the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights, just like Jonah. Historically, in the year that Yeshua was crucified, it is believed that Passover actually occurred on Wednesday. So Christ was crucified sometime Wednesday afternoon, maybe 3-ish or early evening. That would have put him in the grave Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and he would have gotten up Saturday night. That put him in the grave or in the heart of the earth Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. That's 3 nights and 3 days, just like the scripture says. Now, as a part of Easter, they celebrate today, Friday, as the day that the Lord was crucified. They call it Good Friday. Now, if he was crucified on Friday, that means he was in the grave Friday night, and if you at most Saturday night. So that's at most 2 nights. Now, how many days would he have been in the grave if he was actually crucified on Friday evening? That would have meant he was only in the grave for Saturday. And that's 1 day. And so in the scripture, in Matthew 16 and in Matthew 12, where the scripture tells us to beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, this is the one example it gives us, that Yeshua would be in the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. And yet here we are incorporating this, embracing this teaching, this false teaching about him being crucified on Friday and raised either Saturday night or Sunday morning, embracing this false teaching and this leaven as a part of this Easter celebration when God warned us not to do that. So we don't want to embrace the false teachings that are out there, which Easter has that. Instead of cleaning out the leaven, we're embracing it. We're promoting it. We're making it popular, all right? And we don't want to do that. We want to hold to the truth of God. And the final thing I want to mention is simply the focus of each of these holidays. The focus of Passover is the death, because Yeshua said, do this in remembrance of me. He said, take this bread, this unleavened bread, and eat this, and this cup, the grape juice or the wine. And he said, drink, this is my blood. And he said, do this and show forth my death till I come. He said, remember my death, show forth my death till I come. And yet Easter's focus is the resurrection. And we're certainly glad that the Lord rose. And even resurrection is a part of the Passover celebration because it's called first fruits. And first fruits does occur on the Sunday in the midst of the week of unleavened bread. And so there is a celebration for the resurrection. But everything is in its proper perspective when we celebrate Passover the way God intended for us to celebrate. So, in conclusion, are Passover and Easter the same? I would say certainly not. Passover has its name from God. Passover has its date from God. Passover fulfills the scripture that says 3 days and 3 nights he would be in the heart of the earth. And finally, Passover focuses on his death. And these things are the things that God told us to do. Whereas Easter, the name comes from man, the date comes from man, the teachings come from man, and the focus is slightly skewed. So what do we want to do? We want to be loyal to God. And so we want to look to celebrate the Passover and not be distracted by the things that man and really that the adversary tries to use to turn our attention from the truth of God. All right. God bless you. Let's celebrate the Passover and the week of unleavened bread. God bless.